preparing.
Oh, nice. You get to be live on YouTube. That's awesome.
So this is on my YouTube.
That's amazing. Hey, everybody.
Okay, so now there's a little lag. Looks like we're on.
Oh, nice.
All right, good to go.
Awesome.
Welcome everyone to our next installment. Ooh,
that's amazing.
Okay, turning that off. Technology will get there. It's all good. So we are live, and this is our next installment of Rise Above, Real People, Real Talk. And today we have the lovely Lydia, who is such an awesome lady to chat with. So I have had the pleasure of knowing her for a few years now through our essential oils community. And now we have been in a program for heart-centered moms who want to show up in service in the world. So I will let her introduce herself a bit more. Lydia, it is so awesome to have you here. So if you can just tell us a bit more about yourself.
Most definitely, Crystal. Thank you so much for inviting me into your space. And hey, everyone. My name, again, is Lydia Epic. And as Crystal mentioned, our heart for wellness and our heart for seeking that holistically is part of what connected us in the first place. And what's really neat is that when Crystal and I met, it was on what I would call the second major part of my personal holistic journey that's brought me to where I am now. So if we kind of go backwards about 15, 20 years, I was just coming out of college and was recognizing that I was in this place that I could choose basically however it was that I was going to feed myself, what I was going to do with my time, all the things. I was very excited. And at that time, I had two major things. One, I had this really deep spiritual encounter with the Creator that caused me to just hunger for him in a very particular way. And it was in this space of stillness, and it was in this place of just being very intentional about connecting with him, that then brought up the next portion, which was two, and that was to shift the way that I was eating. Okay, right? Because at this point, I'm on my own. I have my own little apartment. I can do whatever it is that I'd like. But from that, it was, you need to remove certain things from your diet. Okay. And so in that process, it was, all right, I'm eliminating meats and then connecting with various friends that were just placed in my path. It was, hey, you should take a look at this. Have you read this before? What about these things? Articles, newsletters, all sorts of things, and realizing slowly but surely my eyes are being opened to a different way of living. And so that then led to me being plant-based for now, a little over 15 years, which it's been our way of life. And it was something that I've done, then got married, husband also adopted it right along with. We have two children. They've been raised plant-based as well. And it's allowed us to be in a very unique place of being in tune with ourselves and with our bodies. Doesn't mean we're perfect by any means or stretch of the imagination. However, it does mean that we're very, again, intentional about how we go about taking care of this temple. We have one body. That's it. That's all we get in this life. So you only live once. However, that doesn't mean you just live however you want to. Let's live it well. So that was the first major piece. Then the second, which is where Crystal came in, was looking at what happens with regards to our emotional health, what happens with regards to taking in not just simply what's happening with our food, but then also with our thoughts, with working through old emotions, and how we then allow that to not only paint the picture of what we see currently, but how it can, if we're not careful and left unchecked, can create a very different picture of our future. So working with Crystal allowed me to be able to start this process of not just looking at emotions, but then also looking even deeper at what was happening to my body. So that was where some of the things that were happening to me postpartum, I didn't realize were a thing. So was able to seek out some really great support with regards to hormone health, with regards to stress management, healthy boundaries, all the things, right? And so that has now allowed me to become and to move into this space of feeling more alive than ever. And so that's what I love being able to share with other women, with other families, to give them the tools to help them to navigate their own path and not just simply be in a place of, well, I guess this is all that life has for me. It's just, no, there may just be some places that you just have a little bit of tweak, or you decide to actually hold the reins instead of just leaving them, just flapping around, right? Let's hold the reins. Let's get a hold of this thing, and let's choose to pick out the direction we're going to move in, the direction we need to go.
Yes. Like that right there encompasses so much of my heart and passion for where I want to bring the people who connect with me on their journey. Again, it's like you said, just sometimes it's those little tweaks that need to happen that people think are mountains, and they're really just little teeny tiny things. And then some things you do really need to like get a grip on and get empowered to take control yourself. And, we've been so accustomed to handing out our power and giving it to someone else, so they tell us where our power is. And again, like, for such a time as this, for this time in the world, we can show up because we've been there on our journey. And the interesting thing was, one, it's been beautiful to see your transformation, which I've told you that before, but like total night and day. And I know for me as well, we've been on this together and like kind of in the same field. And so at this point in time, we're like, we've gone through so much healing to get to this place where we can show up, and like doing it afraid, or doing it just showing up with what we have and like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. And
it's just kind of happening. It's just, oh my gosh, what is this life? So
exactly. Good. But the beauty is, and what you're doing now, which I want you to share more of, but like you're taking your journey and the stuff you've learned and the struggles you've had and putting it out there to really help people who want what you have now. And like the plant-based thing is huge for me. That's one of my things. And the fitness and because self-care as a mom is like, it's so easy to put ourselves in the back burner. And then I totally believe in plant-based. And I had 1 month where I went completely like the way I wanted to live. And it was amazing. My eyesight reversed. It got, it improved. Nice. I felt amazing. My energy was through the roof. It was so amazing. But then I got married. So I definitely appreciate that your husband was on board with that. It's been something different for me. So yeah, our health ideas are totally different. So, but again, like that's also the empowerment of, well, I can still eat the way I want to eat and raise the kids to eat the way I believe is right and best for them, really. It's really not about me being right, but what's best for them.
Exactly.
So, and that's what, like, your ebook I got was so beautiful. Like, if I would have had this earlier on, that's like how to get started without this overwhelming thing. All the plant-based cookbooks I see right now are so like, they are not made for the person who's just coming into it, who doesn't have the time, the energy, or anything, and also has maybe very selective eaters, and we're using selective instead of so like
you said, I didn't say it.
so like the recipes you provided are stuff that I know my husband would be able to eat, and even down to my 4-year-old who is very selective too. So what you're doing, the path you're on is huge. So I know I'm already getting benefits from it, but please share a bit more about like how you're using your obstacles in life to serve people now.
Oh man, that's such a great question. And I'm so glad that the cookbook is a benefit and a blessing, because that was when I really started to not just, again, so this has been a way of life for me for a while. And it was to the point where I was taking it for granted that this was not something that most people did, as well as to have that full family support. Now, granted, I could talk about how my mom felt when I first went plant-based. She was just, oh, okay, that's cool. So you want some turkey, right? I'm just, no, no, that does not qualify. And now, actually, she's more on board with it. She says, yeah, this is good. And I'm looking at how she'll eat, and it's just, oh, look, there it is, right? The major thing that was coming up for people, and I was seeing it time and time again, it was okay, I've either seen the documentary or I've had the conversation, or just somehow I'm going, I'm just going to try it out. I'm going to just cut out meat, or I'm going to just cut out some particular thing from my diet. And when they do, if it is going to a plant-based or a clean version of eating, feeling like, okay, I have to shop at Whole Foods. I have to shop at boutique stores. I have to, order these very special, tailor-made, highly hard to pronounce, imported type things in order for me to eat in a way that's clean. And so many people will just stop because it feels so expensive and they will stop because it feels like they have to somehow become this amazing gourmet chef, when it's just, I just got home and realized I have not started dinner yet, and I'm going to have a small person yelling at me in about 45 minutes if I don't get something together. And so I get that. And so I went from, before kids, it was just, I can make all the things and just get really creative and involved. And I still have a heart to do that. I also have little people to feed. So that meant that I figured out ways to be able to make that shift. So honestly, when I'm purchasing groceries, I mean, you can look at what we've got. It's going to places like Walmart, it's going to Kroger. If you've got Aldi is phenomenal. We like Costco because my husband's all about buying things in bulk. So we do that, right? But nevertheless, with all those places, that's where we're going. We're not typically going to Whole Foods. The only time we will ever go to Whole Foods, and we'll talk about this actually in a course I have, it's called the Wellness Kitchen Makeover. And so I help to guide people through that process of going from, I don't know where to start, to actually implementing some plant-based cooking and feeling more comfortable with it. So the only item at this point, and honestly you can get it at Kroger, is oats. And that's because we learned about how there are certain foods that are very, very difficult to source. And of all things, it's old-fashioned oats. So we're not talking about, sea kelp or something, right? So with oats, that is a basic food that everyone has access to. However, what's out in the market for many people is very, very laden with toxins. So choosing to be mindful of that and choosing to be careful, because my kids eat oatmeal literally every morning. So I'm not going to have them with any kind of a toxic overload if I can help it. Oh, speaking of, hey, I am actually recording something, so. Okay, thank you so much. Take this over to charge. Thank you. Okay, close the door. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Okay, excellent. Close the door.
Why don't you share how old your kids are right now? That's perfect segue.
Yes, so that was the 3-year-old boy who loves to talk. He has so much going on. No inner monologue at all. It's amazing. So I have a 3-year-old boy and I have a 6-year-old girl. Yes. So with the two of them, again, they've never experienced so we eat on a semi-vegetarian, flexitarian style diet. So they've experienced certain fish, and even then they're very selective about what they've experienced. And that's it in terms of their exposure to meats. We do bake and cook sometimes with eggs. And it just kind of depends on what's going on. However, many of the foods that we will make, I would say about 85 to 90% of what we make would fall into a vegan style category. Okay. So yeah, so that was one of them. And he loves to help. And so with recognizing that there are different products that people will want to use or different ways that people are wanting to prepare foods for their families, let's find ways to honor that. Let's find ways to give people access. And it doesn't matter what your income bracket is. It does not matter. Everyone deserves access to clean, proper food. And so if you're willing to make the effort, then I am willing to help you and to coach you and to guide you through that process. Whether it be, like Crystal mentioned, having a book that you reference and I go through and I do different breakdown pieces of here's what you need, here's some of the equipment that you want to have on hand. I'm taking this from a I don't live in the kitchen standpoint. That's how I wrote it. Because for me, I just go to the things, but for others, it's just what do I use? What's happening right now? So I take you from I was just buying takeaway, delivery food for my family all the time because that's all I had time for, to, okay, now I know what tools I need and how to actually work it out. So that's the heart and idea of it.
I love that so much. Like, again, this is what I could have used when I was starting my journey. And we have similar, viewpoints on that and how we're actually executing that. So it's really cool. Yeah. I mean, again, what people sell, what's on the market now and what becomes popular, that's great. It's making them money, but is it practical?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And no, I've got some of those cookbooks there. I love the idea of it. I love the information in it, but that doesn't make it easier to get that food into our bellies and nourish us, because like a lot of it is the whole food stuff. You have to go to all these specialty stores and get these specialty ingredients. And then it's just, I don't have time to research this. The passion is there, but come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, so what you're doing, that's definitely something I love. I'm passionate about, but is not my gifting because I need the help. So every bit about of what you're doing. I also want to ask you, or just to share some of what you're doing for your physical fitness, because nutrition is absolutely huge. But I see your pictures of you doing the rock wall climbing, and I just, oh, I love it. You want to share just a little bit about that?
Yeah, you got it. So with rock climbing, that has been an amazing blessing. And I highly recommend to all my female friends, especially my young mamas, meaning you have young little ones, that it's so important for you to find your thing, meaning to find a way for you to just feed your body and to take out that time for yourself. So that is part of my me time for the week, where I just step away. That is my space. I have an accountability partner, so we both go together. So I can't just go, I don't feel like showing up today. It's just, nope, we're both keeping each other in check on that. But the cool thing that I appreciate about that typical, or not typical, well, that particular form of fitness is that it's about always going back and challenging yourself. And that is something that I feel for many women we miss out on. It's when we live in a state, or when we live in a world, a culture that is very much about applying pressure to you being like somebody else, like as in, this is the model, this is who you need to be like. If you're not like this person, if you're not like this Instagram mom, if you're not like this celebrity mom who all of a sudden has, it's the snatch back, right? All of a sudden my body is back to normal after, 6 weeks. And you're going, I am here 3 years later and no, right? And that's okay. It's not about comparing yourself to that individual, because that's their journey. That's wonderful, good and fine. Instead, we look to say, what is it that my body needs? What is it that allows me to perform at my best? And use that as a marker to yourself, because you in yourself have value. And when you choose to embrace that in what you do, whether it be at home whether it be in setting those healthy boundaries, like we were talking about earlier, whether it's choosing to just move. Movement is so powerful. All those are different ways for you to feed and nourish yourself, and to say, you know what, it's not about the comparison. We're not doing the comparison game. If I'm comparing myself to anyone else, I'm comparing myself to me. Meaning, am I a better version of myself now than I was a week ago, a month ago, a year ago? And that's where the growth comes. So that's for me, that's been the really cool part about choosing rock climbing, because it is that place of, I am choosing to get better in this area, and I'm choosing to really go in. So if yoga is your thing, cool, do yoga. If power walking is your thing, go power walk. If it's hula hooping, for crying out loud, which is super fun, you know, make that your thing and just do it and enjoy it. Something that gives you life, that lights you up, that you just are looking forward to. That's where you begin to, not just with the endorphins, right? But you also begin to reconnect to who you are, and you just make that a part of the forefront of your being.
Yes. I just want to like jump up and cheer and just say yes to every single thing that you're saying.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Which I think why we've connected and just at a different level, you know. There's so much of our journey, the mindset and realizations that are so in sync and so needed. Again, just like hearing the hearts of the stay-at-home moms.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons that propelled me to create this little segment, is because I kept hearing the same stuff, the same stuff, the same stuff. And they're lonely, they're tired, they're exhausted. They don't feel like they can keep up. And again, it's the comparison trap. And, you know, what you're doing is, again, part of that embracing who you are and where you're at, and learning to love your journey and to accept yourself as you are, as our creator, you know, makes each of us individual. And again, like, this is so needed right now. So going back to that, if you want to briefly touch on maybe some of your biggest struggles in this journey, and even more so in the past couple of years, getting to the point where you're at now.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you mentioned before, I have my little guy who is 3, and with both of my pregnancies, I hesitate to say this because I always wanted to be very careful with the terms that I use, because I know that people go through, have been through those situations, and it's been much worse. At the same time, I realize that it's a spectrum. So with my first daughter, there was an experience of birth trauma. Everyone was safe in terms of physically safe, but emotionally, there was a whole lot of scarring that happened for me. And that created a place where it was very hard for me to emotionally connect with my children. Gratefully, that has shifted and that has gotten better, but it's taken time. And it's definitely been a place of doing heart work as well as head work. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then with my son, after his birth, that was when the postpartum depression really hit hard. So it was just this really great, deep sadness. It was very difficult to feel like I was worth anything. There was definitely this sense of looking back on my life and going, is this all my life is now? That I'm just simply that mom, that I'm not even identified by my own first name, that I am, you know, my kid's mom, and I am this person's wife. I'm Brian's wife, right? There was just this really overwhelming sense of, I do not have an identity. And all the things that I worked towards with my education, with my career, I've chosen to release that. And now what am I? And so over the last couple years, with the emotional work, like I said, AFT, if you've not experienced that and gone through that process with Crystal, highly, highly, highly recommend it. So important that we get in a space where we're able to have the mindset to even move forward, because it all starts from within and goes out. So with that, it helped to create the foundation to then start to grow. It was like a clearing of the field. Then after that was recognizing, okay, my body is out of sync. There were days, what was that? I guess it was a couple of years ago. There were days where I would wake up, and before I would even open my eyes, I just had this running to-do list of all these things. And it was all these negative voices and all this it was very tearing down. And I hadn't even moved out of the bed yet. And it was so overwhelming, and it was so debilitating that I was just, I'm done. I just had enough. Thankfully, a friend connected with me and gave me some really great advice that basically led me to realize that I had some hormone imbalances that were happening. And there was also some adrenal fatigue that was happening. And so working on that in terms of headspace, that's what I mean by headspace. Although honestly, your hormones are stored in different parts of your body, right? But it was working on getting those hormones in check and keeping them in a balanced fashion, in a properly balanced fashion, that then opened up oh wow, I don't feel as stressed. I can actually function at least at base level. Now I don't feel like I'm living in the fourth floor of the basement. I can at least be on the ground floor, right? So that was another huge shift. Then we skip over to the, more of the, how does one say, more of the value work. So it was the mindset work, but in a different way, because it was okay, I have emotion, so now I'm going to feel emotion. I have my body in a place where stress is better managed, and I am more keenly aware of what it is that my body needs. So I'm going to make sure to honor that and to supplement it as needed. And then it became the mindset work of, I not only have value, I have a purpose. I have a reason why I'm alive. I'm not just here to take care of my kids, which I'm glad to do, and to partner with and co-labor with my husband, which I'm glad to do. But there is something greater that I am designed and purposed for. Oh, that's awesome. And so a lot of that has happened where I created a course that specifically goes into a 21-day deep dive to really bring to churn that up of just, okay, what is it that I'm here for? What is it that's happening with me? What is my purpose? We had been talking a little bit earlier. Is it okay if I talk about what we were chatting about with, oh yeah, you got it. So earlier we were chatting about a really incredible book. It's called Girls with Swords. It's by Lisa Bevere. And in the beginning of that book, she talks about one of the Terminator movies. I'm not a Terminator fan. I've probably seen about 10 minutes of a movie, if that. However, it talks about the main character, Sarah O'Connor, I believe is her name, and how she is destined to become this great revolutionary leader who ends up basically having the humans to fight against the machines. I hope I'm saying this right. But the point of it is, she in the future was this great revolutionary leader. But when you first see her and you first meet her, she, had just broken up with her boyfriend, was at a, horrible job, was trying to, meet guys at bars, and just had this really horrible, just depressing life. And then when this machine is out to find her, right? I guess it's the Terminator, however that works, right? So when he's out to find her, she says, you have the wrong person. Because when she was told what it was that she was going to become, she says, there's no possible way I can become this great, powerful leader who leads a revolution to do, to save humanity. There's no way that could be me. We say that a lot about ourselves. And it's this place of, I can't possibly do anything. I mean, I do really well at changing diapers, sort of, or, I can help out and serve in these different ways, or whatever the case is, of just feeling really small and allowing yourself to stay in that smallness when that is not who you are. It's not the fullness of who you are. And so when we choose to wake up to our purpose, when we choose to walk that out, when we choose to make space for that and to command space for that, that's where everything shifts. That's when all sorts of doors start opening. That's where we begin to see, and the world around us begins to see what it is that we are purposed and destined to do. And what's really cool is that it's not this place of, okay, I show up and I'm valiant. It's no, this is actually, I enjoy this. I'm having fun. This gives me life. I have passion again. I am fueled with purpose. Yes. So it's amazing. And so that is just kind of a large swath of the journey that I've been through. And again, why it is that I'm so excited to be able to share in this space and to partner with Crystal and to partner with you in finding ways to help you to connect with your purpose and to honor that and to just shine bright.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like everything about that. Like, again, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe we were connected a few years ago just for what we got connected on. But it was all like coming together for this time and to show up. And I do believe our creator is calling us to rise up and create. That's the cool thing too, is like we get to create from this outpouring of how we've been filled. And just so much of what you said, going back and just for our audience sake, and when this was the turning point for me, a culmination of it, but the final clicking point was just August of this past year of 2020, ironically, when it was so hard for so many people. This was the year that I had life spoken over me, probably the first time in my life. And, you know, that's a huge thing I'm passionate about now, speaking life over people. But she just allowed our creator to speak through her and, you know, about stepping into my God-given authority. And right there, it just like, I was so nervous to even have that conversation. It was a war within myself. And you encapsulated so well the inner thought process and feelings and that place where we're at. I mean, I'm like, yep, yep, that was me. That was it. I totally get it. Yeah. But then that clicking moment of realizing I was put on this earth for a reason. I was put on earth at this time for a reason. And there's so much in me that I don't even understand yet. So I'm just going to like sit back and just go with the flow kind of.
Yeah.
But be intentional about living on purpose and shining. Exactly that, shining bright, shining our lights. Because this world needs it. And there are people just like we were who are in that place who have lost their identities. And that was one of my biggest things. I struggled so much in the group we're in with, because it has you like nail down your identity. I'm like, I have no idea who I am. What do I even like? If I could do something every day with no expectations on me, what would I be doing? I'm like, I have no clue. So there's this sense of empowerment. And again, getting over the stigma that it's shameful or guilty. That you should feel guilty for thinking of yourself. And I think you are doing this in such a beautiful way because you can see the love, the light, and the strength and empowerment coming out of you now. If you wouldn't have taken those first steps to hone it back in on yourself, you know, where would you be?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think that's the part that ends up feeling, like you said, very selfish for many. And but first, we're told to love our neighbor as ourselves. Well, I can't love my neighbor. It's difficult for me to love my neighbor if I'm not first loving myself. Exactly. I am where the standard starts. So it's not to say that I love myself and I ignore everybody else, because clearly it says to love your neighbor as yourself if we choose to have that as a tenet of our life, which is what I choose to do. It then means that I need to honor myself. I need to make sure that I make myself and my time and my presence a priority to me, that I show up for me, which on its own, oh my goodness, that took years of, wait, I get to show up for me? Because I will happily show up for everybody else. So the idea of showing up for me being my biggest cheerleader, for me choosing that way of showing up and choosing that way to honor and to love and to nurture is so huge. So, so huge. Cannot urge that enough. So empowering, so powerful.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I could just sit here and like have this conversation with you all day
Oh,
long.
yeah.
So I just want to like to wrap up. I know you're gonna exciting stuff ahead. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to give too much away, but we're gonna be seeing a lot more of you too, which I am so, so honored and grateful for. And excited just to glean from you and share that like sisterhood with being at similar places at the similar journey, and oh, so great. So if you just want to recap like what you have, that how people can get connected with you, how they can get help from you, anything else you want to throw in there?
Yeah, you've got it. So there's a few different ways to get connected. So as we were talking about earlier, there is a cookbook. So there's a mini cookbook, and it's just a sampling. So then you can figure out, okay, I'm not ready to deep dive on anything. Let me just kind of dip my toe in the water. So that's your dipping your toe in the water. So you can get a sense of what it's about, what are some of the different pieces that you'll need. From there, we have a bundle that's going to be coming out, and it's connected actually to a course that I have called the 21 Days of Deeper Spiritual Awareness. And so it's creating this really unique blend between choosing to go after a more intuitive awareness of self and to do that spiritual work so that we're working from the inside out, as well as looking at what it is that we're eating so that we're creating a clean environment for that thinking and that ability to flow, to actually move through. Okay, so there's that. There's also a bio survey. So I do bio survey work. If you're not familiar with what that is, it basically means that instead of trying to figure out what the body is saying, we're in terms of, okay, well, I have this kind of thing going on and I have this other thing going on. Let's just ask the body itself and say, hey, self, what do you need? What's going on in there? And it's a really, really neat way to develop and build that intuitive sense of reading your body and figuring out how to best support it. Super, super huge in our family. It's something that we'll do very routinely as part of our own personal wellness maintenance. So really incredible stuff there. And then if you're going, okay, you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and do this deep dive thing, and I'm ready to take the plant-based life by the horns. I have a program. It's called the Wellness Kitchen Makeover. And so we're putting the last finishing pieces on that. So I'll be sure to have a link available for you guys so you can hop in there. And it goes through and it does a step by step walkthrough of how to shift over from a kind of standard kitchen, if you would say a standard American kitchen, if you're not in America, standard wherever you are, right? To move over from that standard kitchen to one that's more plant-based. In addition to that, once we get things started, we're going to have weekly coachings that are connected to that, which is going to be really, really fun, as well as different recipes, tips and tricks, and whatnot. So we have all those available. If you're wanting to get directly connected to me just straight off and say, hey, I'd love to just hear more about what it is that you do, I have a Facebook group, and it's called the Wellness Kitchen, Food for the Body, or like Fuel for the Body, Food for the Soul. And in there, you'll just hear more of what we talk about in this space, or what we just talked about, of how we can create an environment where we live out our value and our purpose, and throw in some really fun recipes and just different ways of thinking as well. So we can create and cultivate a whole new story, not a whole new story, but we can choose to direct our story in a new direction. Okay, so I super look forward to connecting to you in any and all those spaces. And yeah, I'm really, really excited about being able to share more with Crystal and with you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lydia. Again, like I don't even want to stop this, but
I knew it. We will go on and
I have a
on.
promise of more to come. So like that's all I need right now.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your time and your heart and just sharing so others can glean from all that you have. And you are such an encouragement and inspiration. You inspire me. And again, like you're just one of those that I love seeing your journey. It's so great. So
Yeah, definitely.
thank you for your words. And definitely for the audience, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have just getting to sit here and listen to. But I will post all the links and all those good ways to connect with Lydia and get you on your own track to health and wellness from the simple, easy way to get started. So all right, that is all for now for this segment of Above Real People, Real Talk. So thank you again. That's all for now.